Hi everyone, this is CIT 365 Team Angels, and the members are Ben Wood, Shara, Reed, Tresa, and Sekapis Noima. In our project, this is what we'll talk about. Each members will talk about, demonstrate the overall flow, navigation, and functionality of the application. We'll explain the naming and conventions that we chose to use and show an example about it. We'll show that how we and demonstrate and explain how we created a user-friendly interface with bug design. We'll show examples of the lists and classes in our application. We will show the functionality of the display code from the add code form. We'll show the functionality for the search code form and show the functionality of the read in the Rust order price tag and use it as in the application. We'll show the process of sorting and retrieving the code in the code JSON file. And lastly, we'll show in the grid view and the view of all the code functionality. And as our group, we decided to use Band repository for our team members project. And we just kind of add on what we go to the application and do some changes into it, to his original work application. And as a team added the display code view to pen original applications. And I'm going to show you a little bit of what a group been doing for application, and everyone else will talk about it and talk more details about it later in a video. This is our main menu designers, so I'm gonna run it. And this is what we're putting on in our applications, like the add new code. It works, and the view codes also work here. And the search code button is here, but everyone else will talk more details about it later in the video. And that's about my part.
Now, for our naming conventions, we chose to do uppercase, camel case for our class names, the first starting with an uppercase, and then for our variables, we use a lowercase. We also chose to have labels, 3-letter abbreviations for our fields to know what our variables are. And then for a constant, we used all entirely uppercase. We try to have a very user-friendly interface for our program. We aligned all of our buttons. We grouped proximity-like things together. We started at the top and the user works their way down for a good user interface. And we have consistent backgrounds and repetition throughout our design.
Yep. Okay, going to go ahead and demonstrate the list class. So we created our surface material list from an enum out of the desk class. Here's our enum. And we put it in our add quote so that we could select the list of material. And so this is where we initiate the list class. And this is where we take that list and then we insert it into the combo box. And we add it for each parameter that's in the enum, we add it into the list. And so just to demonstrate how that's working, here's our main menu. And I'm going to add the quote. And here is our list. You can see that it comes in. And I can select it, change it. And every time I select it, it does correspond with the material costs. So, all right, that is our list class.
Okay, so we're going to show the functionality of our display quotes. So here's our main menu, and we're going to add a new quote. We have added validation for each of the fields, making sure they're not empty and that they're also within the parameters. So if we're outside the parameters, it asks us to check it as well as it turns red. If we skip a field, it also will ask us if we're trying to quit or if we actually meant to skip that field. As we change each of the things, our quote summary is changing over here. And again, if we skip a field and we try and display the quote, it will ask us that we must enter the depth. And again, if the key press is working there, showing that we must enter the depth at the right numbers. It also updates the surface area and all the prices are updated with that. Oops. Okay, so when it goes over 24 and as well as our shipping is being updated when that changes. So once we go to display quote, it gives us the new quote. These are all labels that cannot be changed at this point. And from here, we can decide whether to save the quote or whether to cancel a quote. If we save the quote, that's when it's going to get written into JSON, and we'll have Ben show that.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and display the, go over the JSON, show how it works, and then go over our view quotes as well. So to begin, I need to show you the last record here in our JSON is with Sarah Reed and the pine material. And then I'm going to go ahead and let's just add a new quote. We'll put new for JSON. And we'll do 25 and 25, and we're going to have 4 drawers. We're going to pick laminate, and let's just pick 5 days. We'll display the quote for JSON. Everything looks good. We'll save the quote. All right, so now here you see my file does refresh, and I come down here and I have this for JSON has been added to the end of my JSON file. All right, so let's go through the code. So we have our view quote. This is upon load. This is where we're going to try this. We're going to try, and we've got this JSON variable. This is our path to our JSON file. We're using the stream reader, creating a new instance of the stream reader. And then we have our read quotes. We're just variabilizing our stream reader here to the end of the line. And then we have our list. We're initializing another list called new quote from this new quote struct. And I want to show you that this is from our desk quote. We created a struct just to make sure we're getting just exactly what we want into our view quotes. And we're deserializing the object and from the list, and then we are data grid. Oh, this is deserializing. This is where we're going to deserialize it. This is how we're deserializing it. We're deserializing that struct from, and then we're just displaying each parameter out of that list and 2 lists, and then we are catching an exception. On the display quote, this is where we serialize that JSON file. And here we create our file path variable. We're reading all the text on the system file output. And then we're going to convert that text to JSON and deserialize that object, the list, and then create a new instance of the list. And then add each one of these items from the quote from using that struct. And then we're taking our variable here. We're going to serialize that object back up into our JSON list and then print that back out into the JSON file. And then it goes back to the main menu. All right, so I want to come back here. I added that down here, and you can see that it does appear. You see our format for our date does come into our JSON file as a JSON date. And we have converted that into just a regular date display. So, all right, that's our JSON and our view all quotes.
I'm going to go through the functionality of the search quotes. Brings up this. You can search by material, and it'll bring up all the quotes that are given that material. This is done using the same code as the view all quotes. We just have a filter that shows that if it's the material, then show the ones that, from the JSON file that have that material.
Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate the reading in of the rush order prices text file. So here I've created a static data member for the two-dimensional array for the rush order prices. And here is my method. This is all contained in the desk quote class. Here I'm returning the two-dimensional static array, but here is actually where I read in the text file. So this one actually returns the one-dimensional array from the text file. So I have a try catch opening up that rush order prices text, opening a stream reader, and then going through the stream reader until the end of the file, grabbing each individual line and placing it into the array. And then I close the reader and have the catch if there's an error there. Returning the price list of the one-dimensional array then comes into the next method that takes the one-dimensional array and uses a nested for loop to put the rush order prices in a two-dimensional array, parsing them into integers so that they can be used in the calculations to give the quote. So I can demonstrate how that's used. We use the functionality to kind of test our two-dimensional array in this actual grid right here. So each of these numbers are coming from the two-dimensional array being produced on load of this form, and I could show you that code in just a minute. But here we then use the two-dimensional array to calculate the shipping cost based on the criteria. So based on the size, then it's using the array to pull the information. So depending on the size, oops, too big. Thank you for reminding me. Okay, and then it pulls the size based on the code for the array. And I will show where that quote is happening. So on the add quotes, here we have the selection of the days, assigns it to a number, and then when we actually do the rush order shipping, it has conditional statements. That's the validation for the rush order shipping. And then it has conditional statements to actually calculate the cost. Here's the onload where it actually gives that table using the two-dimensional array of the rush order prices for the table. And then let's see if I can find where it's calculating the rush order prices. We have lots of validation, and here it is. So here's my conditional statements to calculate the rush order cost. When it's selected at 15, then it's going to return 0, but then when it's selected at a rush order of 3 days, it's going to check the area of the desk and determining whether or not what part of the two-dimensional array will then produce that price. And then it returns that information based on that text information. So it's set up so if they want to change their shipping prices, they just need to import a new text file, and that automatically will update the add quotes table of information as well as the pricing that comes through as the quotes. So I can show you that text file is in our docs right here, and there's our rush order prices that comes in just as that straight text file is exactly as it was given to us in the requirements. All right, and I think that should do it. So I believe that's a demonstration of all the requirements, and that is our application. We think we did a great job, and I think it's really user-friendly, and we worked well as a team. So we look forward to your feedback and for our next project. Thanks so much.